Hello students. In the last class I explained about what is taxonomy and what is systematics and what are the types of systematics. And now in this class I am going to explain about what is a procedure of this taxonomy. The taxonomy, it actually includes three steps. The first one is identification, the second one is nomenclature, and the third one is classification. Identification means if you found one organism which you exactly don't know anything about it, then what you will do, you will take this newly identified organism and you start comparing with the organisms, previously existing organisms which you actually know. Now, this new organism, into which group it is showing more similarities, in that particular group you will include the newly identified organism. Hope you understand. That means the process of identification of an unknown organism by comparing with already known organisms. Hope you understand what is identification. Now, the next one is nomenclature. Nomenclature means this is the process of giving names to organisms. For example, a small boy is there. He is given with some name called, let us take Rakesh. Now, a girl baby is there, and she is given with some name, some Gopika. That means these are all the names. That means assigning names to the organisms, that is called as nomenclature. Such nomenclature, it can be done in three ways. The first one is vernacular nomenclature, the second one is binomial nomenclature, which is a very important one. And almost every scientist, I'm sorry, here is exactly, they are scientists only, but the scientists who works for taxonomy, they must be called as taxonomists. Hope you understand. They are scientists only. I did not use any wrong word, but these are the scientists who are working for taxonomy. That's why a scientist is not exact word to use here. That's why I corrected it as taxonomist. So many taxonomists, any taxonomist who wanted to give the name, right now they are following this type, that is called as binomial nomenclature, then vernacular nomenclature and trinomial nomenclature. That's why the most used nomenclature is nothing but binomial nomenclature. And the third one is trinomial nomenclature. Now let us start reading one after another. The first one is vernacular nomenclature. So giving uh, local or common names to either animal or plant, that is called as vernacular nomenclature. For example, let us take in English, dog is there. Now in the local language we will call it as kutta. Hope you understand. For example, snake is there, we will call it as sap. Oh, that means we are giving the local names to identify the organisms. So, like that, if you are giving any local names, for example, a person who is living in Mumbai, he will name it in Hindi. For example, the person who is living in Karnataka, he will use it in Kannada. Like that, giving some local names. That means it changes from one state to another state, one region to another region. That is the reason why vernacular nomenclature, it changes from one area to another area. That is the reason why it is not called as a fixed nomenclature. It is a ever changing nomenclature. Hope you understand what is vernacular nomenclature. Very simple. Just giving the local names, common names according to the place where they are living. If you are living in some what I call Pune, if you are living in some Karnataka, if you are living in some what I call Tamil Nadu, whatever the region where you are living, that particular regional language may you are calling that particular organism. That is called as vernacular nomenclature. As it changes from one area to another area, it is not a fixed nomenclature. It always changes from one area to another area. Hope you understand. Now, let's take the second nomenclature, that is binomial nomenclature. Students, try to read this name properly. In the name itself, you can be able to clearly identify what is the meaning of this binomial nomenclature. Bi means two, nomial means names, nomenclature means just 2 3 minutes back only I told nomenclature means giving name. That means giving two names, giving two names to every organism is called as binomial nomenclature. But a small correction you need to identify. Giving two names to every living organism is called binomial nomenclature. That is exactly correct. But here you should be able to give these names only from Latin language. That is the reason why giving two Latin or Latinized names, because binomial nomenclature, it is a system of nomenclature which has certain set of rules. You should not deviate that particular rules. According to the rules framed under this binomial nomenclature, by strictly following that rules only, we should give the name to any living organism. So the first and very very important rule of binomial nomenclature is, any scientist, he may belongs to America, Australia, Europe, or India, wherever the region he may belongs to, whatever the organism he identify, any new organism if he identify, he has to give the name only in Latin language. Latin word only, Latin language only he should be able to use to name that particular organism. That's why giving two Latin or Latinized names to every living organism is called as binomial nomenclature. Where this binomial nomenclature, in 18th century, there is one famous scientist. His name is Carolus Linnaeus. This is a person who gave this a system of nomenclature called binomial nomenclature, and he is the one who framed the rules for this binomial nomenclature. So the one who identify any new individual, they have to strictly follow the rules given by Carolus Linnaeus only. He can be able to frame or chalk out his own rules. Hope you understand. And as I clearly mentioned, binomial nomenclature is a highly accepted right now. Whoever the taxonomist identify any new individual, if he wanted to name, obviously has to follow binomial nomenclature only. That's why it is highly accepted type of nomenclature. Now, what is exactly binomial nomenclature? If you want to understand, we will take at least one or two examples, then you will clearly understand. So I have taken here two examples. Plasmodium vivox. Hope you know, students, what is Plasmodium vivox. It is malarial parasite. There is one mosquito called female Anopheles mosquito. When this female Anopheles mosquito, if it bites us, then this Plasmodium vivox, which is living in the salivary glands of that Plasmodium vivox, it enters into the blood of our body. Then it causes a disease called as malaria. So malaria, it is caused due to Plasmodium vivox, whereas it is transferred from one organism, that means one human being to another human being, by a vector organism called as female Anopheles mosquito. Hope you understand. That malarial parasite only we are calling it as Plasmodium vivox. Now see, try to identify or try to observe this name clearly. Plasmodium is one name and Vivox is another name. So that only I'm telling you, I'm trying to explain you. See, Plasmodium first name and Vivox is second name. See, go to the definition, giving two Latin or Latinized names to every organisms. See, both are Latin words, and how many words are there? Two words. How many names are there? Two names are there. That means giving two Latin or Latinized names to every organism. That only are calling it as a binomial nomenclature. Hope you understand now more clearly after seeing this example. Now let us take One more example, this Mangifera indica, basically mango plant. Technically you will call it as Mangifera indica. See, in this also try to implement or try to follow the same definition, giving two Latin names to organism. See here, both are Latin names only, and both, see, this is Mangifera, this is first name, and this is second name. So this is how giving two names is called as binomial nomenclature. But after listening to these examples, definitely every student who are listening to these examples, you will get one doubt: why, what are these two names? This is a very important question. In the given examples, Plasmodium, that means I'm talking about first name. In the second example, the first name is Mangifera. So Plasmodium and Mangifera, they both are called as genus names. Whereas again, go back to the examples, second names, that means Vivox and Indica, they are the species names. So giving two names, in that one name must be genus name and second name must be species name, then that is called as binomial nomenclature. Hope I'm clear to you now. As I clearly mentioned, there are some set of rules that are framed to give binomial nomenclature by Carolus Linnaeus. What are the rules? First rule, and very important rule, even it is there in the definition also, biological names must be derived from Latin only. They must be derived from Latin only. Whereas the given binomial nomenclature name should have two names. The first one, it is called as a genus name, and the second name, it is called species name, where genus name must be started with capitals, whereas species name must be started with this small letters. See, you can clearly observe Plasmodium vivax. In this P, I started with capitals, whereas V, that means the first letter of species name, I started writing with small letters. Now, let us take the second example also. See, Mangifera, it is a genus name. See, I started with capital M, whereas Indica is a genus name, whereas I, it is started with small letter. So that only I am telling, the name should, the binomial nomenclature name should have one genus name, one species name. Genus name must be started with capital letter, and the species name must be started with the small letter. This is one more rule. Whereas the next rule is, when you are writing this binomial nomenclature with your hand, that means handwritten binomial nomenclature names must be underlined separately. That means, after, for example, here I typed, so I did not underline it. But for example, if I wrote this name with by taking a pen on the paper, that means handwritten binomial nomenclature name, then after writing this name Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium I should underline separately, and Vivox I have to underline it separately. So this is how you need to write binomial nomenclature names if you are using your hand, that means handwritten names. No, if you are printing in a book, for example, here I made some PowerPoint presentation. Here that rule do not, we need not to implement it, so there is no need of underlining. Then what to do? You have to type this particular names in italics. See, I typed it in italics. Hope you are understanding. If you are writing with your hand, they must be underlined separately. Point number one. And point number two, no, you are typing that or you are printing in any book, they must be in italics. So this is a second point. Now, one more point is, these names should not exceed than 12 words, 12 letters, whereas they should not come less than 3 words. That means the limit is 3, the lower limit is 3 and the upper limit is 12. So only 3 letters to 12 letters only you should be able to use. It may be 6 or it may be 7 or it may be 10 or it may be 11, but it should not cross exceed 12 alphabets, whereas it should not come down from 3 number. Hope you understand. So these are the rules that are used to give binomial nomenclature. And as I already clearly told, binomial nomenclature was proposed or given by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, now let us take the third nomenclature. Hope you remember there are three ways of giving names to organisms. One is vernacular names, that means a local nomenclature, giving local names, and binomial nomenclature, most authentic and well used, highly used binomial nomenclature. Whereas the third type of nomenclature is trinomial nomenclature, as it is in the name itself, trinomial, three names, nomenclature, giving names. So giving three names to every individual, that is called as a trinomial nomenclature. And this was proposed by Huxley and Strickland. So this Strickland and this Huxley, these two are the scientists who gave trinomial nomenclature, whereas binomial nomenclature was given by Carolus Linnaeus. And students, here try to or remember the names, because in my experience many students they are confusing with the names. Please don't get confused. Binomial nomenclature Carolus Linnaeus, trinomial nomenclature Huxley and Strickland. Okay, now what is trinomial nomenclature? Giving two names, giving three names to every individual. Let us just go back to binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature means giving two names to every individual. In that, one is genus name and second one is species name. Trinomial nomenclature means giving three names. Please understand, I am telling you little slowly. One is genus name, two is species name, and the third name is subspecies name. That means the first one is genus name, second one is species name, and the third one is subspecies name. Sometimes even species also it includes a subspecies, where this subspecies also should be named. If the subspecies it is added to the species name, then that is called as trinomial nomenclature. For that, I brought two examples. For example, Homo sapiens europaeus. That means Homo sapiens, we are the human beings. In that, there is a subspecies. That means the organism, the individuals, the human beings which are living in Europe, they are called as europaeus. Hope you understand. Whereas a Carvus splendens protegatus, that means this is a common crow. Hope you know crow, a black colored bird. So this crow, it is called as Carvus splendens. But Carvus splendens, if you wanted to write its subspecies name also, then that is called as protegatus. Now, in the given example, Carvus and Homo. See, Carvus and Homo, they are the genus names, and Splendens and Sapiens. So, Splendens and Sapiens, they are species names. Protegatus and Europaeus. See, Protegatus and Europaeus, they are subspecies names. Like that, if you are adding even subspecies name also to binomial nomenclature, then that is called as a trinomial nomenclature. But students, one thing you need to clearly understand, every time you need not to mention the subspecies also separately, because basically we are all human beings, whether he live in Europe, or if he live in America, or if he live in Andaman Nicobar, that doesn't matter for us. So we are all human beings only. So usually the subspecies nomenclature, it is not that accepted. See, I did not write, nowhere I mentioned it is the most accepted, because there is no need. For example, Carvus splendens, all are crows only. You go to America, that crow, it never become a dog, and a buffalo never become a lion or a tiger. That means they are species, they are definite species. A lion species is a lion species. For example, if it is present in India, that lion, it never become a dog. So there is no much what I call importance for trinomial nomenclature. Hope you understand. So in out of three nomenclatures, the most important nomenclature is the binomial nomenclature only. So hope you understand. Now let us take one important thing. What is that? See, world may there are so many taxonomies. For example, some taxonomist is present in America, some taxonomist present in Australia, some taxonomist is present in India, some taxonomist present in Andaman Nicobar Island. So these are all various types of what I call cultures, various types of places, basically. But how they get to know, they have to give Latin language, Latin names only. For example, a person who is present in Andaman, they are having their own regional language. How he will understand or how he will know what is Latin? That's why, for example, if he found a new organism, he has to give to certain councils. See, these are various organizations or councils that are exclusively meant to give names only. For example, I am the scientist. Of course, I'm not a scientist, I'm a teacher. Just I'm telling, for example, students try to understand. I found a new organism. I never know what is Latin. For example, if someone talk to me in Latin, I think that they are scolding me. Definitely I feel that, because I don't know anything about Latin except the name. So this so what I'll do, as I don't know Latin, for example, I found one plant. Now what I'll do, I don't know Latin, so but I have to give Latin name only. Then I will take this particular plant to ICBN. I'll explain what is it. ICBN means International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. Whereas in this botanical nomenclature, only plants will be named. That means I can't be able to do, so they will help me to give the name, sorry, Latin name to that particular plant. I think you understood now betterly. For example, same example, I'll continue. I found one new what I call animal, a new animal which no one know about it. So I wanted to name it, I don't know Latin. Then what I do, uh, as I don't know Latin, I'll take that particular organism details to ICZN. What is ICZN means? International Code of Geological Nomenclature. Now this particular organization, it helps me in giving the Latin names to that organism, that new organism identified by me. Hope you understand now. Now, the next one is ICVN, International Code of Viral Nomenclature. ICNB means International Code of Nomenclature of Bacteria. Because here ICBN means International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So there is a chances of confusion. That's why ICNB, it is a little changed. So ICNB means Nomenclature of Bacteria. And ICNCP means International Code of Nomenclature for Cultured Plants. So these are the various organizations which are which helps a taxonomist to derive the names only from Latin. Hope you got my point. Now the next one is the next step of taxonomy is classification. I today I started my class by telling that three steps of taxonomy: identification and classification, nomenclature, and the next one is classification. Identification means by comparing with already present organisms, a newly identified organism, it is placed into certain group. Now, nomenclature means giving name to the organism, that is called as a nomenclature. Now, we will take the third step, very, very important step. And to be frank, it's a lengthy step also, that is classification. Classification, it includes various levels, and these levels are called as taxonomic hierarchy. What is taxonomic hierarchy? See, for example, I found one organism. I should not classify that organism in the way what I like. See, there are certain rules. For example, when you are going on road, we have to follow the set of rules which are framed by the government. For example, red signal is there. Then, if red signal is on, you need to stop and give way to the other road, other travelers who are going on that particular road. And whenever this green come, again you can start going, you can start your travel. Like that, when we are in a society, we need to follow certain rules. Like that, when I classify an organism, I need to follow certain rules. And that rules, it is present in a level of classification that is called as a taxonomic hierarchy. Such a taxonomic hierarchy, it includes seven taxons, that means seven categories. What are they? Kingdom. The next one is phylum, which is also called as a division. Why it is called as a division? For example, if I am classifying one animal, then I have to use the word phylum. No, I am classifying one plant, then in the place of this phylum I have to use a word called division. Now the next one is class, the next one is order. In the again same as it is, if I am classifying one animal, then I have to use the word order. No, I am classifying one plant, then I have to use the word cohort. Now the next one is family, genus and species. So these are the 7 taxonomic categories, and if I wanted to classify the organism 100%, I need to follow this hierarchy only. I can't and I should not also use my own ideas, my own thought process to what I call frame the what I call to classify the organism. One key point you need to understand. What is the key point? When you are starting the classification from kingdom to species, as you go down, the number of similarities between the organisms, it keep on increasing. Whereas when you are going from species to kingdom, that means low to up, the number of similarities or the number of characters, it will be decreasing. So as you go down to the taxonomic hierarchy, that means kingdom to species you are traveling, then the number of characters or similarities will increase. No, you are traveling from bottom to top, that means species to kingdom, the number of similarities will be decreasing. Hope you understand. Now we will understand this particular taxonomic hierarchy in a detailed way, because till now whatever the explanation I have given, it don't give you the proper knowledge about taxonomic hierarchy. So I need to take multiple examples, at least 3 to 4 examples. If we discuss, then you will understand what is taxonomic hierarchy, and this explanation is not at all sufficient. So let us go little more detailed way. Okay, now let us take kingdom. Kingdom is the highest taxonomic category, whereas you can see directly, you can see because it is mentioned clearly here, species is the lowest taxonomic category. So in the taxonomic hierarchy, kingdom is the uppermost highest taxonomic category, whereas species is the lowermost or smallest taxonomic category. Now kingdom, it is a highest taxonomic category, and it is a topmost, that means all the plants on this earth planet, every plant, it comes under plant kingdom. Like that, all the animals, they comes under this animal kingdom. That means these are the topmost. Kingdom is the uppermost level. And the after kingdom, what is the next taxonomic category? A phloem or a division. For example, again this particular kingdom, for example, just example ke liye, so that you can understand better, that is my intention. Let us take animal kingdom is there. Animal kingdom, again it is including so many phylum, phylas, phylum porifera, phylum what you call coelenterata, phylum nematoda, phylum chordata, phylum arthropoda, which is the largest phylum. The largest phylum of animal kingdom is phylum arthropoda. And in that again it includes so many classes, and that means kingdom is animal kingdom and phylum is arthropoda, and so many insects are the largest group of largest class which is included under arthropoda. Like that, now if you take phylum, it comes under the it comes under the kingdom, and it is a taxonomic category which is present between kingdom and class. See, kingdom and class, between that you can be able to see the phylum. And when you are writing the phylum, you have to use the last word as phyta, bryophyta, pteridophyta. So hope you are understanding it. Thallophyta. Like that, the suffix words, that means the last word, they must be phyta. But please understand, this is a very important thing you need to understand. Not every time. For example, if you go to this animals, see, are you calling this a poriferophyta? That name at least exists. It never exists, dears. That means I am talking about this plants. Plants may there are certain rules. For example, if you are following plant classification, then phylum, that means a division, must be ended with phyta. But when you take animals, this rule do not apply. Hope you understand. I hope I am not confusing you. If you have any confusion, and immediately you ask me, I definitely I will answer. And you can even make this call also to me. For example, just my text message is it is not sufficient, you are not understanding it. Immediately you what I call make a call, or you can make some WhatsApp me. That video call option is also there, you can do it. I will clearly explain it. Now the next one is class. This is a division, sorry, that means this is a division, that means phylum again divided into so many classes, and it is present between division, that means phylum, and order. And it also ends with the suffix called as opsida or physae. Whereas what I call order, a class, it includes so many orders, whereas it is a taxonomic category that is present between class and family, and it also ends with ales. Whereas family, it ends with ac. Okay, lily ac, fab ac, solen ac, malv ac, cisalpine ac. Students, I am not scolding you. Please don't think that this sir, at least he did not see us, but he started scolding. See, I'm not scolding. Even in the regular class also, I usually don't scold. I'm just telling examples. These are various families that are present in the plant kingdom. Fabaceae. For example, you are eating dal. This is afternoon. You must be finish your lunch also. Now most of you students, in your lunch you had some dal, and the dal, it belongs to what? That Fabaceae family only. For example, some of you must have had this brinjal curry, it belongs to Solanaceae family. And tomato and potato is a favorite of everyone. Potato fry, almost everyone likes it. That potato, it belongs to which family? Solanaceae family. And this what I call tomatoes, they belongs to Solanaceae family. So these are families. So hope you understand, I am not scolding you. Now the next one is genus. So if you are calling many genus, then you have to call it as genera. And families includes many genus, that means genera. Whereas genus, below to that, you can be able to say the last taxonomic category, that is called as a species, the smallest taxonomic category, which may includes one species or many species. Okay, now let us take let us a small error happened. Let me correct this error. Okay, yes, I'm sorry for this error. Now we will explain. I told I will take at least 3 4 examples, so I'm taking at least 3 examples in plants, and 4 examples in animals. Now let us take these are various groups of plants. Now the first plant is mango, the second plant is wheat, and the third plant is banana. For your understanding, I pasted this image also. Now let us take kingdom. Kingdom is plantae, because this is a plant, that's why plantae. Of course, plantae is also called as metaphyta, whereas animalia, kingdom animalia, is also called as metazoa. So in your textbook, instead of plante metaphyta it is given, you should not confuse. Okay, now kingdom is a plante. Now it has a division, that means phylum angiosperms, and class is a dicotyledons. And this what I call order is uh, sepindales, and also family, and also genus. So this family it is Anacardiaceae, and genus Mangifera, species is Indica, and common name is mango. Whereas you can see this second example. This is actually a wheat. I'm sorry. This is a wheat plant. Now, yeah, yes, this is a wheat plant. So kingdom is plantae, division angiosperm, and class is monocotyledons, and cohort, that means order, is poales, and family is Poaceae, and genus is Triticum, and species is Aestivum. So this common name is wheat. Triticum aestivum ka common name is wheat. Like that, you need to classify various plants. Whereas I have taken examples of these animals also. In that, we are the first example, that means human beings. Kingdom animalia, phylum chordata, class mammalia, we are all mammals actually, and order students, I think so. This mouse, I'm disconnecting mouse. Just I'm sorry, I'm confusing you. I'm releasing, I'm taking out the mouse, and again I'll continue my lecture. Now, now this problem do not come, students. I'm sorry for whatever the confusion I made. Hope you are understanding the concept. Now, let us take this example, human beings. Now human beings ka example is what I call, classification is kingdom animalia, phylum chordata, class mammalia, order primata, family hominidae, genus homo, and species sapiens, and common name obviously man. Like that, these are some more examples to understand. Hope you understand now what is this taxonomic hierarchy. So these are the various what I call, taxonomic categories through which you need to do the classification. Now, some scientists, they are like extra studious, they are very studious. They want every single detail of the organism. So basically, if you wanted to do the outline classification, just a normal classification, then they follow only 7 taxonomic categories. But there are certain as a taxonomists are there, they wanted to make finest level of classification. That means every single detail, every single detail, small detail also, it must be present in my classification. They're like very extra studious taxonomists. They don't want to lose a single point also in the classification. Then the classification is still more elaborated. That means till now we have taken 7 taxonomic categories, but now we are taking kingdom, division, subdivision. See, again division they divided, and superclass, class, and subclass. See, again class, it is divided into the upper one, it is superclass, and lower one is subclass. That means what I wanted to tell you is, this is like every single point of an organism, it comes by taking this particular finest level of classification. Whereas this upper one, I'm sorry, this is upper one, and this is like normal information. That means you will understand, but if you wanted to get a complete details, then you have to follow this system of classification. And now, kingdom, division, subdivision, superclass, class, and subclass, superorder, order, and suborder, superfamily, family, and subfamily, tribe, and subtribe. See, family का नीचे ऊपर superfamily is there, and niche subfamily, tribe, and subtribe is there. And genus, again genus में finest level, again this genus, again it is divided into subgenus, section, subsection. Even see how detailed they are making the classification. Did you notice it or not? Again, species, the last one, seventh one, subspecies, varieties, and even subvarieties, forma, and also subforma. So like this is the detailed classification. But frankly, I'm telling you one very important thing. Usually 95 plus percentage of the scientists, they follow this this classification only. Out of only 5 scientists, they follow, out of 100 only 5 scientists, they follow this finest level of classification. Now, in zoology, this much of details won't be there, because basically animals are simple than the plants. That's why this is a sub-level classification, subcategories of the taxonomic hierarchy: kingdom, phylum, subphylum, superclass, class, subclass, and order, suborder, superfamily, family, subfamily, genus, species, and subspecies. इतना है. Again, animal classification में forma, subforma, whereas section, subsection, and tribe, subtribe, these are all not there. Because animals में इतना सारा details तो नहीं मिलेगा, but plants में so many details will come. That's why plants has more elaborative taxonomic hierarchy, whereas animals are having little less elaborate taxonomic hierarchy. Now, what is the difference between taxon and a category? Basically, categories means in the taxonomic hierarchy, the rank, every rank, kingdom is a rank, phylum is a rank, class is a rank, order is a rank. By taking, if you see, instead of explaining, if I show this, if I explain, then you will understand. See, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. These are categories. But what all the biotic components that are included under these particular categories? They are called as a taxons. That means kingdom plants. So all plants are called as taxons. Whereas this rank of these plants, it is called kingdom, and that kingdom, it is a category. Hope you understand. That means the rank, it is called as category, whereas that particular category में what are the living things, that living organisms are included, they are called as taxons. And for example, let us take phylum. Phylum में it includes angiosperms of and how many ever angiosperms are there? These are all living organisms, and all these living organisms are called as taxons. Whereas the rank of this living organism, that means phylum, it is nothing but a category. Understood? Now, so this is the way you need to differentiate between taxon and category. Category means what? The rank, the grouping level, it is called as a category, whereas the living organisms which are included under this category, that is called as a taxon. Hope you understand. Students, rest of the class we will continue tomorrow. And today's class, hope you understand, and if you have any doubts, you can ask me. And my number, it is already there in the this WhatsApp, and you just see the WhatsApp, and you will get my number, and you can call me if you have any doubts. Thank you so much.